Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Dean of Faculty Fisheries and Marine Science, Professor Dr. Insinyur Maftu MSI, Head of Agro-Business Fisheries Study Program, Dr. Zainal Abidin, and Chief Executive of 3-in-1 Program, Dr. Insinyur Anton Evani, MP. The Honorable Professor Wen Chi Huang, Professor of Agribusiness Management from National Pingtung University of Science and Technology, Taiwan. Also, a very warm welcome to all of the participants of 3-in-1 program under the theme of Policy and Strategy for International Trade of Fisheries Development. First of all, let us praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has given us mercy and blessings so we are able to attend this very special event. Secondly, may peace be upon the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam who had guided us to the brightness. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be the mistress of ceremony for today's event. I am Naila Novalia. Let me read the agenda 3-in-1 program as follows. First, opening. The second, singing Indonesian national anthem. Third, greetings. Fourth, guest lecture, and the last, closing. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on, let's begin this meeting by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hopefully, the agenda will run very well as expected. Moving to the second agenda, let's sing Indonesian national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Thank you very much, dear audience. Ladies and gentlemen, in the third agenda, we are going to listen the welcome speech that will be given by Head of Agrobusiness Fisheries and Studies Program, Dr. Zainal Abidin. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to each one of you for being here with us today in our program, 3-in-1 program. May I thank you especially for our Dean, Professor Maftu, our Head of Department, Mr. Rizky Agung, PhD, our committee, Dr. Anton, and also my fellow professor as speaker in this program, Professor Wen Jihuang, PhD, all of lecture from agribusiness study program and also other study program, and also all of students here and also in daring session, and all audience that I cannot mention one by one. We are very pleased to be able to welcome you that have been with us for this 3-in-1 program activity with the theme Policy and Strategy for International Trade of Fisheries Development. This activity is done by our study program Agribusiness and Fisheries, and this program is one of our main academic program, and here we collaborate with 3 parties: local lecture, international lecture, and also from practitioners. Today guest lecture we have topic about the international trade policy and strategy for fisheries development with the speaker Professor Wen Jihuang from NPUC Taiwan. As we know that international trade policy and strategy for fisheries development is a very important thing in this era, because we must face the development in the global era. All nations, include us, Indonesia, has responsibility to realize sustainable development goals by United Nations. Last but not least, I'm Zainal Abidin as Head of Agrobusiness Office Study Program. Hope this activity will be success and give us a lot of knowledge now and in the future. Be happy with the wonderful Zoom meeting, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for the opening speech. Next, I invite Professor Maftu as the Dean of Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science, Universitas Brawijaya, for delivering the speech, also officially open to this program. Professor Maftu, please, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and welcome to everyone. My Honorable, especially to Professor Wen Jihuang. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your sharing in this activity, 3-in-1 collaboration material and what do you call it, material to share about the international trade and policy. And also the honorable, all of the participants here, also to the committee in this afternoon. We are very pleased to be able to welcome you that have been with us for this 3-in-1 program activity with theme policy and strategy for international trade of fisheries development. This activity is done by Fisheries Agribusiness Department, Fisheries and Marine Science Faculty, Universitas Brawijaya. International trade policy and strategy for fisheries development is a very important in the global era. We must prepare ourselves to face the condition in order to do sustainability development goals. Last but not least, I hope everything running well. Be happy with wonderful Zoom meeting, and thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dean, for the speech and officially open this 3-in-1 program for Fisheries Agrobusiness today. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we are in the main agenda, the general lecture from our special invited speaker, Professor Dr. Wen Chi Huang, Professor of Agribusiness Management, National Pingtung University of Science and Technology, Taiwan, and the discussion will be led by Mrs. Wahyu Handayani as moderator. Without further ado, please welcome Mrs. Wahyu Handayani.
Thank you, Master Ceremony, Mbak Naila, for the chance to me to lead this session as moderator. Professor Wen Chi Huang, we have Professor Wen Chi Huang as speaker here. But first of all, thank you to Professor Maftu, to Pak Anton as head of committee, and Pak Zainal, and all participants in Zoom meeting too, and to all my students here. As a leader, I want to give the rule before we do the session. First, all the Zoom member, Zoom participant here, please mute the mic, the microphone, and if able, you can on cam. That is the main rule. And the second, about the time, we have time from 13 to 30, 13:30 for until 14 and 40. I'm so sorry about that. And I divide into two sessions. The main session is presentation from Professor Wenji, and the second session is question and answer from the participant to Professor Wenji. Okay. Let's start the session. Professor Wenji, I want to ask you about the CV. Me or you can describe yourself, or what is the idea?
Actually, I can try to share my screen, but if it failed, then please please do it for me, because I don't have too much changes in the slide that I sent earlier. So I will try, because sometimes the connection is not always so smooth. So we'll figure out how it works.
Okay.
But anyway, thank you so much for the nice opportunity given to me to attend this 3-in-1 program. So my gratitude goes to the dean and the program organizer, as well as the moderator. I'm very happy to see all of you again, because I think I attended the 3-in-1 program for the fisheries and marine science program 2 years ago. So I'm very happy to be back again, and hopefully I can share different content of my talk, because I was checking very closely. So actually, for the coming, including today and next week, I'm dividing it into like 2 parts. So for today's talk, you'll be focusing more on the international trade of fishery-related product, more or less in a more global level. And I will also bring in some comparison between Indonesia and Taiwan, even though Taiwan is pretty tiny. But fishery sector has been a very strong sector for us for a long time. So the next week, then the focal point will move back to Taiwan, and to share more about what we have been able to do in recent years, in particular to responding to the issue of sustainability, not only in the resource perspective, but also the livelihood of humans in the fishery villages and communities. So I hope that you'll be able to enjoy my talk. So I'm going to show my screen. Uh-huh. Yeah, I think you, okay, thank you. I think you can see my screen, right? So, uh, so yeah, so for this week, we're going to talk about international trade in the fishery and the marine sector. Maybe we will talk about policy issue, because but in here we are more or less focusing more on the situation of international trade, and using some of the I mean the open the available information to share with what has been going on in the world, in a way. Okay. So again, my name is Wen Huang. I'm from the Department of Agribusiness Management, National Pingtung University of Science and Technology. So I probably should also talk a little bit about myself this time. So I am currently professor at the department, and my education background, I got my bachelor from National Taiwan University in agriculture economics, and master and PhD from the Pennsylvania State University. So my field was in resource and environmental economics. So the research field that I put down, the first one is resource and environmental economics, but I also got more interested in the smallholder issues in agriculture in recent years, and also some areas in rural development. I have very happy news to share with you. Last year, I actually won a lifetime outstanding teaching award from National Pingtung University of Science and Technology, because I won like 3 times the outstanding teaching award. So for those who have won 3 awards, then you automatically get the lifetime award. It means that then I cannot compete with the young faculty anymore. Okay. And I also got the Excellent Agriculture Educator Award awarded by the Agriculture Education Association of Taiwan. So also in last year. But I'm still working very hard on try to improve in my teaching, and have more opportunity to serve the community. So in terms of services, I'm the senior board member of the Rural Economic Society of Taiwan, and it's an academic organization that has been established more than 60 years. And I'm still a member of the Leaders from Asia Partnership for Rural Human Resource Development in Rural Area, nicknamed AsiaDRA. Okay, it's a regional NGO based in the Philippines. anyway, I'm trying still work very closely with them to work on the regional issues in particular in Asia. Okay. And here is my the student that I supervise up to now. Some students that I have more foreign student than my local student. Maybe it was not true a few years back, but now it is. I actually do have more foreign student supervised under me up to now. And composition wise, though, there are 40% female students for all my foreign graduate student and 51% female member out of my Taiwanese students. Okay, and the doctoral student number has also growing in recent years, and percentage-wise, we have more female master student percentage-wise than the female doctoral student. So we still, well, I still have a few years to work in this field. So so this is an official announcement for try to recruit excellent minds to work in MPSTs, both for your master and the doctoral programs. Anyway, so let's come back to our talk for the day. I divided into several sections. I will have a brief introduction, and then for trading issues, I'm going to work on like two interesting area. One is from the live fish, and second part is actually for the all fishery products. We also cover a little bit about fishery and sustainability issues in recent years, and we'll end with a concluding remark. Okay, so I think this one is pretty exciting. I actually adapted this information from the Our World in Data, which is a shared platform for the that basically got the open data available from the public sources, and then they made it into a visualization of the issues related to SDG and other areas of a particular interest. The interesting feature of this one is actually you can change the country that will be investigated. So in this case, it's very interesting is that we used to have more when we look at the fishery related issues in you can see that actually I pick selected country only from the Asia region. So among the list is Indonesia, okay, Japan, Philippines, Thailand, South Korea, and Taiwan. Okay, so very interesting thing, of course, is that we have seen pretty much big changes in the whole fisheries sector in these selected countries. I remember that back in the 1980s, when I was still in college, I was I was working as intern at our Ministry of Agriculture, and because I have some background in Japanese, so the task given to me during that time was to translate Japanese materials from newspaper and magazines into the local language so that it can be shared among people who are interested in the field. The assignment I received was from my supervisor about the farmed fish, fish farming on the ocean from Japan. So they started to cultivating fishes in the oceans because they're seeing that the catchment is declining, and then they want to establish a better managed habitat in the ocean so that they can enhance their catchment. But from this figure, it is quite interesting that when I was given the assignment of looking at, it was like the peak time for Japan, and so after that really declined a lot. Okay, from the wild catch. Okay, so so this is and then for Indonesia, maybe after 2000, around 2003, you will see this big jump. Okay, so actually the rest of the country that picked there either steadily remain in its position, but no one really can compete with in Indonesia from this aspect. But anyway, so this is a interesting starting point to have a look at. Okay. Now, so we'll move on to the second one. So we will look at the trade of live fish. Okay. Well, actually, one of the reasons I took this issue is because in recent years, we have growing in the ornamental fish and also other live fish consumptions. Okay, in particular for our for Pintong area is in the tropics, and NPSD has a pretty good aquacultural program. But aside from us, it's really around us. There are a lot of ornamental fish ponds. But before that, they were actually cultivating fish for the edible fish. Okay, but then when the economy grows, and aside from eating fish, people get to appreciating the beauty of fish, and actually it's not from the wild catch, but from the aquacultural activity that we have. Okay, so there are quite a few interesting companies very near to NPSD campus, and also very important background to that is actually even from the we have a national agricultural and biotech park in Pintong area, and they started to have this ornamental fish display and trading units. So actually, we can see the museum there, but it's not like an aquarium. It's really a museum of the ornamental fish being produced by the. So they basically showcasing the ornamental fish produced by all the companies around this area. So when buyer come, they don't really necessarily having to visit the farm directly to see what's available. So they have one location, and for that case, actually the logistics, including quarantine and custom services, also available in one facility. So it's very conveniently located in that. So so for similar reason, the university also starting a few years ago a special program at the now it turned into the doctoral level is ornamental fish and fish health management program. So, but it's more technical program, not so much on economic aspect to that, but actually out of one of the objective written in there says marketing and the strategy for ornamental fish industry. So for that reason, I was recruited as a adjunct professor. So I have to talk a little bit about the ornamental fish issues. Okay, so but here we were look at from this aspect by looking at let me see my screen. I have to. Okay, so I have two slides. One is for the importers. Okay, so the top players for the live fish is actually Hong Kong account for like 20.2% globally, and followed by Japan, South Korea, China, and USA. Okay, so from the economic perspective, of course, we need to know where these products go first, because I think we are producing producer country, so we really want to know where are these products goes. Okay, I have a story here. Is that the you see that the I did not pick the country, particularly in Asia, but this is what that map looked like. So except for USA, it's actually more or less concentrated on the East Asia countries. Okay. And there are two things happening here, including like we used to say that one of the indicator for the economic, the result of economic growth is that people will change their food consumption pattern. Okay, so one of the pattern that used to be observed during the past decades of economic growth is that most of the country, when they move from the developing country to the developed world, their meat consumption also increased. But in a more recent study, they also say that, okay, but the cases for East Asia's growth, it seems to be a little bit different. Yes, we also had the increase in meat consumption, but because people are getting more health conscious, and so they also identify that the fishery consumption is actually a result of more health consciousness and plus the economic development. So you will see that in these countries being identified, as they move forward into a higher level of economic development, actually they consume more fishery related product. Okay, but I because I did not have a comparison of their meat consumption pattern in here, so maybe we cannot just concluding by saying this, but it is actually one of those new emerging economy. As they grow, actually they shifted in protein consumption, but actually instead of choosing red meat, they are more prone to consume fishery related products. So I think this one is a really good indicator for such claim. But of course, this number is for 2021. So just this is a really for the audience to get a little bit interested in this issue. So when we look at the exporters in 2021, you'll see that there are much more concentrated. So you can see that the biggest share goes to China. So even though it's top, it was also the top players and number 5 in terms of importer, but actually it's number 1 as an exporter. Okay, and this one also indicating something more interesting is that the share from China is pretty big, right? So 31.9%. So all the rest of the exporter country rank from 2 to 5 actually could not gain more than 10% of the share of the market. So even for Japan, it's only 6%, and Taiwan actually account for 4.9%, Philippines 4.5%, and so France is 4.4%. Okay. I think you might have a question about, okay, what happened to Indonesia and many of other Asian country. Actually, from the map, it's also are pretty high in their percentages. But anyway, because I only picked top 5, so that's why it's not showing on the list. I'm pretty sure that Indonesia is somewhere around it. Okay. But the figure here, one of the biggest exporter, it actually in the official statistic, because this statistic from the International Trade Center is coming from the custom services of each countries for the real data. For some country that they don't have the real data, then they will use the mirror data to come up the configuration. But all these major country in here using their real traded data from the custom services. As a WTO member of Taiwan, actually are officially called pretty long name to cover the whole major island group, but by abbreviation, the country, the nation is written as Chinese Taipei. So this is just in case if you go to the ITC website and try to find where Taiwan is, actually it's under the name of so-called Chinese Taipei. So this one is a little note to that. But Taiwan is really tiny from this map. You can probably, you cannot even see quite clearly because it's on the southeast coast of the China. That the green, sorry, the dot here. So and so sometimes it can easily missed. But we have 4.9% of export in 2021 in the world market, just following in Japan. So maybe not so much, but it's really truly something. Okay, and these are in more. So this one is for the ornamental fish. So it's a live fish, and I excluded the freshwater one. So this one is only for the non-freshwater. And the market-wise, the importing countries are USA, Netherlands, Italy, China, and Hong Kong. So are the top 5. So there are other country, of course, following the list. Okay, so it means that it will be interesting to see from the exporter countries' perspective, because for Taiwan's, I had one chance working with one student who's on-the-job student who are really running the ornamental fish business, and for their company, their target country is only USA. So I asked her about, so how do you make the shipment of fish? She said, actually, they need to check the cargo of the airline very carefully, and to make sure that the timely delivery to make shipment of the live fish. Okay. But she also mentioned that yeah, there are some problem if you cannot make timely arrangement for your logistics. She said there was one occasion that they need to discard the whole shipment from their company because there was a miscommunication between the airline and the company. Okay, what happened is that the shipment port is from the northern part of Taiwan, so they actually need to prepare the fish and go ahead with the shipments. Okay, so they just supplied maybe 30% more oxygen than is needed to prepare the fish for the traveling. But unfortunately, for the particular occasion, there was a strike happening in U.S. For airport. So the air cargo was grounded for not being able to make timely departure because the destination airport has temporarily been closed because of the strike. Okay, but my student was a little bit upset because well, she did not follow that there was a strike going on the destination airport. But she said if she knew, then she probably can go to their airport and try to maybe provide more oxygen to her fish because of the delay for like more than 18 hours. So the extra oxygen that they provided was not sufficient to keep the fish alive when they reached to the destination port. So it was they actually need to bear the cost because they said the incident of the mistake or miscommunication or the incident about this strike was not covered by the insurance coverage that their company had insured themselves against it. So I asked her, so why don't you cover that? He said, because the incident is pretty rare. They don't have such a frequent occurrence. So they just need to compare the cost of insuring for this incident to the cost of the actual happening of the incident. So they said because the occurrence is rare, so they need to just vary the cost occur. But anyway, so actually this is a pretty challenging issues for the company or industry that want to look at shipment for live animals. Okay, so. But it's pretty surprising that actually the exporting country, okay, the top players, these 5 players. I mean, surprising is because 32.7% goes to Spain, okay, and followed by Netherlands, Sri Lanka, and of course Indonesia was able to reach to the 6.4% to be the world's number 4 countries, and Philippines 5.6%. So you still see some countries in South Asia, from Southeast Asia, and maybe from the aspect of the European country, okay, maybe there are close relationship in their neighboring countries. So this indicated it's not necessarily mean that they are the major producers, but definitely they are the major exporter for countries in the region. Okay. Let me see. Okay. And so this is another configuration I want to point out. Where is Taiwan? So yes, it's among the top 10 country, but the 3 slots are after Indonesia, so it was not showing up in the major figure. But you'll be able to see that actually the 2 European countries account for more than 50% of the export value. So it's pretty amazing. Okay, so now this is a comparison. I think this one, Indonesia comparing the ornamental live fish exportation positions of Indonesia and Taiwan. This tells us where are these fish went in 2021. Okay, so I think Indonesia has much healthier market performance compared to Taiwan, because we are running into a major danger of putting all the eggs in one basket. Okay, because most of our product actually goes to USA and followed by Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong. So it's pretty much concentrated. So from for Indonesia's perspective, we are having a little bit better diversify. For instance, for Taiwan's case, almost like 36% of our fish actually goes to USA. So, and the second place actually is way down there for just maybe 13%. Okay, so because the latter is a little bit small, but actually the scale are different. So on the vertical axis, for Taiwan, the highest number is actually 40%, and for Indonesia, it's only 20%. So that's why I'm saying that in terms of the when we look at whether we are handling is a more diversified market, Indonesia definitely is working better on these terms. Okay, it's okay. So for ITC, the International Trade Center, one of the objective for them is actually to help the small and medium-sized enterprises in each country to be able to go into the international market. So unlike big company that they might have their own business intelligence unit working on the market analysis, ITC actually developed a quite interesting tool to look at for each of the countries, you can or product you can identify where is the current market structure and what is the potential export potential. So so this one comes from the ITC's export potential analysis map. So this one is also very interesting. So the country origin I pick is actually Indonesia. So so what is this map telling you is that they have key findings here. It says that the market has, so this one is not my analysis. Actually, I'm reading directly from the finding here. ITC's export potential analysis says that the key findings are the markets with great potential for Indonesia's export of ornamental fish are United States, China, and Singapore. It's really coincide with its origin. So the map should be read like this. Okay, the United States actually import from many countries, but there are some market still can be exploited. Okay, so so the solid color portion is actually the there are still potential to the for export activity. Okay, so the lighter color is actually the actualized market. Okay, and so according to this sequence, you will see that United States is the highest, followed by China and Singapore. But because Singapore probably had also a lot of product from other places, so but in terms of the biggest value is really the unrealized additional export that can be fulfilled is still have 7.6 million. Okay, so this one is what this configuration is telling you. Okay. For this one is that I'm comparing the, sorry, because I cannot see this thing. Okay. Okay. And I'm moving to another interesting item for the live fish is that the eel. Okay, this is interesting is because traditionally, yeah, because the ornamental fish apparently in Indonesia has a much stronger position. So, but for eel, we used to exceedingly highly um, concentrated in Japanese market, and still we are concentrating on the Japanese market, but they are becoming more and more supplier into the Japanese market. But anyway, so from the importers perspective, you see that the yeah, Japan is the highest market, and it continued to be because there is it's a really very interesting tradition that they have in 2 seasons of the year, in the summer and in during the winter time. There are 2 peaks for their high demand for eel, and then but why live eel? It's because showing the cooking skills in restaurant is one of the main element for selling the eel product. So that's why they still import a lot of the live eel. But as importer, you can see that there is a really strong cultural background to that, I believe. Because aside from Japan, the second one is actually South Korea, and followed by Hong Kong, China, and Canada. Okay, and it also indicating the Japanese exporting over the Japanese style. Washoku is maybe one of the reason behind it, because they are using the cultural experiences to share with other country. But from the exporter perspective, well, actually, in the very early time, Taiwan was the biggest supplier, but the position has been taken by China in maybe the last 20 years. Okay. But then you can see that the exporter, huge concentrated value is from China, followed by Canada, and then Taiwan. So there are emerging number in Myanmar in 2021 is suddenly show up, but early on is probably not so much from Myanmar, and then we have United States as a coming into top 5 player in 2021. Okay, I'm not quite sure what I got muted, but anyway, so this one is actually a photo taken in Haneda Airport in Japan before the pandemic. Okay, so actually I was in Haneda Airport, and it so happened that it was the EO day of the year in the summer. Okay, so this takeout restaurant located Haneda actually provided like lunchbox kind of prepared grilled eel. Okay, actually it was grilled on site, and but so it means that they are providing this eel on rice. Okay, so I'm not quite sure if you can read it. The sign on the left hand side, actually it says that the eel come from Kaohsiung. Okay, so yeah, so that's why I have you know, enlarged the lecture. So it's a grilled eel on rice, and it's a box meal using imported eel from Kaohsiung city of Taiwan. Okay. I was very surprised because we are flying back to Kaohsiung on that day. So we said, oh, we are actually having a yield that come from our destination city. Okay, so this is one of the interesting thing that they actually have the particular date designated to EO, and because it says that the EO is actually coming from Kaohsiung, so we had a chat with the master chef for this takeout restaurant, because there was not too many other guests, so they are very happy to talk to us. Okay, learning that we came from Taiwan, so they do have on site the EO from Japan, but the it's not made into the lunchboxes menu. Actually, is been sold in the pre-seasoned items. Okay, and more expensive, by the way. So, but still, so we actually asked him why they choose this product from Kaohsiung, and he explained it. So anyway, by the way, we did not know. It's only after we come back and we check out what is this company, and we found out that this company was is really the headquarter company for EOS in Tokyo area. So it has been established for 120 years in the major wholesale fishery market in Tokyo city. When we visit that wholesale place, we missed this restaurant, but we were able to get their EO in the airport. So it's kind of interesting because you see this mascot of EO. So okay, it's not a snake. So so for Taiwan's case, because we already have a concentrated market in Japan, you will see this huge difference in the configuration. So, but it still says that we have some potential. Okay, so still the market with a great potential for exports of the live eel are still Japan, South Korea, and China. Okay, on the top 3 list, and actually for additional export value that can be explored is like 29 million. Okay, not so big because it's a very much mature market. But actually, when I look at it, the market potential thing, because we used to only looking at the Japanese market, and it's really the huge indicator of how our eel industry has been able to perform. So, but there apparently are new markets like Netherlands and Belgium, Italy, and Germany are not so much in the quantity, but still interesting market for this product. Okay. Now, so after sharing with you this more specific product ornamental fish, which is the stronger, powerful Indonesia, and for Taiwan's case, about the market potential for eel, I would actually encourage the student to go to ITC website and try to play around with it, because there are still a lot of other fish species being provided on that list, and made and when you look at each of the product, you can go further into it and to look at how it performed in these your partner countries. So I think it's a very interesting way to have a look at it. So now I want to turn into the fishery product. One of the reasons that I use this one is to showcase with you that this is one of the sustainability issues of full mileage for fishery product. Okay. So in here, the figure actually shows on vertical axis how much distance is the major market, you know, for the products. Okay, and then the horizontal axis are the market concentration situation. So this one is for the import market scenario. Okay, so there are actually, I also picked top 5 items only. So when you have all the items listed, it's really very hard to read. So I just picked the top 5 items from the list, and there is a reference number in here. Is actually the that circle means yeah, 6 billion. Okay, USD. Okay, so because it's the unit in thousand, and then you have another million there. So okay, so it's not very surprising, is because you see that the item that cover mainly fresh and chill item has a higher level of concentration in terms of the market, but much shorter in the distance traveled. So the average is like 2,000 kilometers. Okay, but when you look at the other items, such as the frozen fish, the 0303 actually, it's had a little lower concentration, but the distance travel is like more than 5,000 kilometer. The one that has the highest one is like 7,000, is because it's a collection of including the live, fresh, chill, frozen, dried items all together. So it's processed items in there. So then you'll see that they will be able to travel much further. Okay. And then this one is from the export country's perspective. So this one actually tell you that the product compositions for export countries are the highest one is because for this shrimps and crab categories, it's really a composite of all items. So that's why it seems to show higher concentration because they are coming mainly from selected countries. So the total distance travel is not surprisingly the same as the previous figure at around 7,000 kilometer mark. Okay, but for other fresh items, you'll see that actually the concentration is very low. It means that they come from many different exporting countries. Okay, so it's a very interesting way to look at where your competitors might present and where are these markets. Okay, so and this one is from that 0306 item there. You can see that it's including those in shell or not, live, fresh, chill, frozen, dried, and salted, or in the smoke even, meaning that they can already been steamed. So from this one, actually, you can see that the top player, Ecuador and India, followed by Canada, Russia, okay, Vietnam, okay, Indonesia is among the top 10 player in this category. So no wonder, you know, the student when they pick the topic, they like to look at from this aspect. And these are the importers. Okay, not surprisingly, the first three are United States, China, Japan, but the top 2 is really pretty big already. Okay, And this one is by looking at Indonesia as a whole, and for this one, I picked two categories. One is because the definition is a little bit different, but anyway, I picked the category for fish and the shellfish, and the yellow color is actually the fish products process one. So this one is also very interesting. Is that this tell you from the product group what are the potential that still untapped. Okay, so for instance, for the first item come on top is actually shrimp and the prawn. Okay, so it says that for Indonesia, we only tap like 40% of market, and there are 60% more of that market can be explored, but has not been fully realized. Okay, so there are some potentials for this market. Okay, and then you can look at from the other thing. But by the way, when you look at this market potential items, if you don't pick the product category, the one that come on top, of course, is from the national interest. In most cases, it will show up like electronics and more maybe bigger item. For Indonesia's case, probably if you pick the item in a culture related product, it will show up is like palm, okay, oil palm. So you have to intentionally pick in the item that are of particular interest. So for the processed item, for shrimp and prawn, prepare and preserved one, you already fulfill like 61% of all market potential. For tunas, you fulfill 47% of the market potential. For crab, prepare, preserved, excluding smoke is like 75% of market. So I think it helped to identify what would be interesting new market to be explored. Okay. Actually, when I was looking at the data from here, I did not put it here because it's not really in the global scales scenario. But the ITC database also had the company information. So when I was checking the company engaged in the global trading issues, well, have to admit that like top 10 country, company from Japan. So I was looking at the one of the Japanese Tokyo-based wholesale market for product for fishery product. They showcase how they have their shrimp processing being done in Indonesia. Okay, so if you got interested, you might want to have a look at. But it's really per company perspective. It's not really from the country's perspective. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next segment, which is about the sustainability issue. So this is what from the International Trade Center. Actually, they compile this sustainability certification that's around. Okay, but actually you can select the item that are related to fishery. Like okay, you can probably easily find the MSC certification in here, and there are probably other like wetland or other scenario, but or fair trading related certification. But there are actually growing number of fishery related certification that's around. So anyway, so you should explore it more. But aside from here, of course, UN's SDGs are important guideline nowadays for company to look at how they perform, and in their environmental report, they need to say exactly how they are contributing to achieving these goals. And so actually for the, of course, the fishery related aspect is covered in goal number 14. So this one actually comes from the SDG checker. And so it has a detailed statistics for each of the indicators for SDGs that are showcased independently. So, for instance, in here they will cover how they make sure that the water is clean and the beaches are clean, and conservation effort from each of the country and all that. So, so I think for policy perspective, this is of course one of those guideline for the government policies. Okay, so for instance, for the coastlines, we nowadays have a project to clean the beach and reduce the debris goes in, or the garbages that goes to the ocean waters. We actually had the we called it the citizens' responsibility by asking those people who go for fishing as a for tourism or leisure activity purposes, or if they go for diving, okay, they can actually help spot and report on what they observe in the ocean. And so there are a lot of company actually try to put it one of their CSR activity to have like a beach cleaning activity, or the divers will actually when doing the diving activity for leisure purposes, they were asking their tourists also to help bring back the garbages that goes to the ocean, something like that. Okay, and then here is another interesting statistic is that so we have issue that people started to worry about. The capture fishery is declining in its population, and then we want to have more fish farming practices through aquaculture activity. And actually, from this, our World in Data also had documented this shifting in the production level from the aquaculture and captured fish. So so they put in the topical lines, and that now we have more fish from the fish farms than from the marine catches. But when you go back to the SDGs checker, there is another indicator then show up, because the issue of whether the aquaculture product is healthier for the ocean environment or not, and there are still some debate and question about it. The issue is because many of the aquaculture the product are using the capture fishery to feed the fish. Okay, so it means that for the fish feed perspective, or this fish feed can be used for the capture fish can be used as fish feed, and can also be used for animal feed and other purposes. So, but then we start to observe that even for MPST actually, the aquaculture department is studying other kinds of maybe animal protein sources of feed, maybe coming from the agricultural waste, or even for cacao. Okay, and even some are working on using like vegetable base, such as we are replacing the dairy milk with vegetarian milk. We started to see like oatmeal is coming into as a potential source for fish feed. Okay, yeah, and actually one of my students is working on that in a multinational company. In he's based in Singapore, by the way. But anyway, so and so for this reason, for my next week's talk, actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about the food education for fishery products. So actually, for instance, that there are aside from the MSc sources, the Chinese government actually had this fish recommendations for consumption. They identify the items that are aquacultural fishery products that are actually feeding on the marine catched fish as its feed, and they discourage consumption of such fish species, and said you should pick the variety that are not feeding on the marine catch item as its animal. I mean, as its feed for the fish. Okay. So maybe there are interesting things that people can observe later on. And okay, and here is the statistic about the marine territorial water that are protected in 2021. By the way, in this statistic, I cannot find Taiwanese data, so it's not available in here, but and actually, this number changed a little bit from the previous year because Australia now comes first, followed by United Kingdom, Chile, Brazil. It used to be the case that the United States was the top runner as the protecting its marine territorial water. Okay, and from Indonesia, it has 3.06% covered. Okay. So I think time-wise, I was requested to make a 1 hour presentation. So I more or less covered it. So for this today's lecture, actually, the main point is I want to share some of the interesting global trading issues with you. And I hope this will lead to my talk from the next week to the more on the national policy perspective from Taiwan's, what Taiwan is trying to do and has accomplished. So I will be covering that kind of aspect. And so I think this ends my presentation for today. And thank you very much for your attention. And I welcome any questions that you may have.
Okay, Professor. Thank you so much. That's very complete presentation from global trade of live fish, global trade of fisheries product until fisheries and sustainability. It's very important for issue for us here, and hopefully for student it will be what to say initiative, or they can do creativity in the future to explore or something like that. Okay, thank you, Professor. Now it's time to question and answer. Maybe here, students here or lecturer want to ask directly to Professor Wenji Huang. Okay? Okay, you can stand up and then we will give a microphone for you. Come here, Mas. Name and name and what is your question?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aditya Gimnasari Iskandar. I am from A01 and my name is 036. Greetings, Madam Professor Wang Chi Huang.
Yes.
I want to ask a question. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, around 34.2% of fisheries are overfished. The question is, what can we do as the communities do to ensure our local waters are fished sustainably? Thank you.
Okay. How to call your name? Pendeknya? Adit. Okay, Professor Wenchi, Adit question already
Yes.
talk. Okay, you can directly to answer that.
Okay. Thank you, Edik, for your very interesting and important question. I think when you study economics, one of the elements of overfishing is really not it's really in the issue of not well defined property right. So it's a common property issue. Okay, common property means that when you exploit the resource earlier, then you get the chance to take the benefit out of it. And so then it means that the sustainability is not the concern for the stakeholder, okay? Because for them, it belongs to everyone, then it belongs to no one. So the earlier you can harvest it, then you can benefit from it, and then that cause the issue of unsustainability. I think there are some reaction to it is that you can look at from the global perspective or from the local one. I will talk about the local one first, okay? And actually, I will talk more about it next week using an example, but I think I can give you a little bit of idea, okay? So, for instance, in Taiwan's case, what happened is that we have defined the coastal waters fishing right, okay, to the local fishing association, okay, fishermen's association. So actually, for the fishermen's association, they over Taiwan, they divide up the waters on the coastal area. So you have designated the fishing area for each of the fishermen's association. But not all organizations will work properly if you have unclearly defined domain on how to managing it for the longer term perspective. So one of the interesting case we have in near to our university is a very particular product that are only unique to the area. It's called sakura shrimp, which is a Japanese name for cherry blossom, because it has when the shrimp is floating in the ocean, it looks like the cherry blossom falling into the ground from the tree. So it got that name. But what happened is that because that's the only place where this shrimp can be found. So the local fishermen's association, they form into this production marketing group, only taking care of the sakura shrimp. They have the bid to maintain the resources. So what happened is that they calculate the potential stock. They study what is the major breeding time of the year. So they voluntarily set up the catchment levels for each year, and also the allowable catchment per day. Okay, and even though it's from the coastal area, but actually the shrimp still move around in different locations. So what happens is that when the fishing boat is out to catch it, and if the ship master spot the fish, and sorry, the shrimp, and then they already over the quota for that ship, they will actually inform other ship to catch it if they have not fulfilled the day's quota. So by having no fishing time slot of the year, they were able to beat up the retail price for the sakura shrimp, and then they informed also to the consumer that because they want to retain the fishery resources, so they will be only allowed to fish the shrimp for several months of the year, and then because it can be dried and processed, so they can still supply year-round, but they will slowly releasing the product into the market. So this is one of the way that you can resolve the issue of overfishing, because from the long-term sustainability perspective, harvesting in a particular year only doesn't make sense because you can sustaining your benefit, it can sustaining the income level. And from the regional perspective, some of migratory fish species already been formed into fishery organizations, so they are depending on the voluntary contribution of their member country in the organization. So another example we have is for the bluefin tuna. What happened is that before they are allowed to be auctioned in the wholesale market as catchment, actually when they caught the fish, they need to notify. They actually need to spot mark the place where the fish was caught, and then so when the boat reached to the harbor, then they will use this date, location, mark information for each of the ship and the fish, and to make sure that these are legally caught fish within the quota in the designated ocean area. So I think these are some of the effort that can be taken into consideration, and actually I think some countries already are doing it. So the fishery authority should have a monitor of the activity and made into the trading rule, so that when the product got traded, such information can be used, and a way to monitor the enforcing the activities of to avoid overfishing. Okay, so these are my very quick answer to your question. Okay, maybe it can be have more detailed responses, but this is my quick response. Hopefully, you can also get the related information to know what are the other measures that can be taken into consideration. Thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you, Professor Wenji. How about that, Mas Adit? Okay, so the future is very, very important to manage about how to make it sustainability, right? Okay. Thank you. And for all Zoom participants, I will give chance to ask the question to Professor Wenji by raise hand button, or if you don't want to talk directly, you can write down your question. Or here, maybe any. Okay, come here. We have one question from female. Okay. Name and nickname, maybe you can do that.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is the camera. Okay.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Rismai Zulmayafa. You can call me Ayu.
Okay, Ayu.
I'm from Fisheries Agrobusiness major. First of all, I want to say thank you to Professor Wen Chiwang for the knowledge that has been given. Based on the top 5 global trade of live fish, the exporter one, which has been described previously, that Indonesia is not included in it. While as we know that the area of Indonesian waters reaches 6.32 million square kilometers based on data from the Indonesian Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries, with various types of fish in it. Indonesia also do fish farming to continue to produce to produce fisheries resources while maintaining its sustainability. My question is,
Mhm.
what do you think about why Indonesia is not in the top 5 exporter of live fish according to your perspective? Thank you.
Okay, Mbak Ayu. Okay, thank you, Mbak Ayu, for the question. Professor Wenchi, that is your time. Why Indonesia not in five top 10 like that? Oh, I'm sorry. Top 5, right? Okay.
Yeah, so it's actually, I think it's in the top 10, but for live fish, there are pretty challenging issues for logistics. Okay, so I will also share that story about, for instance, for the live eel. So we used to hearing story about, okay, how to make sure that, for instance, for our live eel, actually it's not shipped by boat; it's actually shipped by air cargo. So it's shipped directly to the Japanese market. And but live eel, the very important thing is that you have to make sure that the fish itself is alive when it arrives to the restaurant. So actually, the restaurant would like to uh, make sure that fish is arrived when the chef is working on it. Okay, so it's not just to make sure that it's alive. It's actually that how do you shorten the quarantine time, and how do you shorten, I mean, from the air cargo to the local, to the local restaurant. So that shortened passage is very important. So you either need to pre-testing it, like in nowadays, many of the live animals actually will have to be quarantined and tested for feed residues and unallowable food additives and all this kind of thing ahead of time, and to make sure that it's disease is free. So actually, from the country perspective, not only the company, but actually whether the country has had good bilateral linkages to make sure that this timely delivery is actually happening. So it means that you either have the quarantine requirement fulfilled ahead of the shipment process, okay, or making sure that when it arrives to the port with the good reputation, that the time needed to remaining in the custom service for quarantine and other control can be reduced. So for the EO in Taiwan, they were able to do that. But of course, I cannot say that the 100% they are always no problem. We did have experience in the past that while testing the custom services, they were using the standardized procedure to do the sampling, but they actually found the traces of undesirable maybe medicinal use remain in the eel, and so for that reason, the fish actually had to retain longer in the customs so that they are going to have more tests done. So for that particular shipment, then it means that they cannot survive this lengthy process. And so once it passed through the custom to the restaurant, actually the restaurant cannot accept it because it's not alive enough. Okay, so that's one. And actually, there are some other story, like, okay, they actually need to put a turtle to ship it together with the EO to make sure that they are put an natural enemy in the same packages to make sure that the fish is keeping alert, and they will be very alive, okay, when it arrives. So there are some story like that. And also, Hong Kong is a very interesting market for the fresh. The live fish is actually a similar scenario. Their seafood restaurant actually requesting for the live fish to be displayed and when the custom come to the restaurant to pick the fish. So, for instance, in before even for now, for the aquaculture grouper, we actually need to to ship the fish fresh, sorry, alive. Okay, so the grower actually need to negotiate with the fishery authority to make sure that the passing through the your trade partners custom is important, but also from the local. For instance, we used to have a policy saying that for those live fish that need to be exported, the government actually designated a special port to handling all the live fish for exportation preparation. It's a pretty big cover, and so they had a designated function to do it. But actually, the local farmer, aquaculture fisher farms, they reflected to the government saying that that particular logistical location, because this one is not for air cargo, it's for boat. Okay, they said the kind of grouper fish that they kept is very sensitive, so they cannot sustain such a long road trips to be assembled in this exporting designated export port. So they're requesting that the authorities should allow their local harbor that are very near to their aquaculture site can be a new designated harbor for export purposes, because then the time they needed to travel on the road can be shortened, and then the fish is relatively less sensitive to the shipment on the boat. Okay, so where do these products go? Actually, they go to Hong Kong market, and so the buyer will actually based on contractual relationship to already order the fish from particular site. So it means that they are point to point shipments. Okay, so there are like these kind of special arrangement need to be placed. So I think that also explain maybe Indonesia is a little bit too far from the major markets of China, Japan, or Hong Kong. Maybe Hong Kong is better, but it's closer. But maybe for Singapore, it's probably more approachable. Less restriction on this importation for items can be another consideration. So I cannot speculate the reason, but from the past experience, that's what we observe. So I probably will have your professors to answer that question. So thank you anyway for the question.
Okay, Mbak Ayu, that is the answer from Prof. Wen Chi Huang as a academist or researcher or something like that by analysis. He said about the history and something like that. It's very nice, but that is your challenge to do the best in the future. How to make Indonesia become maybe in the Thank you, Professor. That is,
yes.
I think it's to encourage our student about that. Thank you. And
yes.
I'm sorry about the time. It is so limited, but if you have any question, you can go to the committee and we will send the question to Professor Wen Chi Huang because Professor Wen Chi Huang is very, very appreciate to you and will give answer about that. Okay, thank you so much, Professor Wen Chi Huang, and give applause to Professor Wen Chi Huang. Okay, last but not least, it is very important to us to say about sustainability is a very, very, very important issue in this session and the future. Okay. Me as a moderator, if I have any faults here, I want to apologize about my fault. Okay, and the time I give to Master Ceremony, Mbak Naila. Professor, thank you so much. Okay, Mbak
Okay.
Naila, time is yours.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wahyuandayani, for leading this session. Thank you for this insightful discussion. I hope we all can understand and implement the new knowledge in our future endeavor. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of today's program. Thank you very much for all participants for joining today's lecture. I would like to express my gratitude also to Professor Wen Ji Huang from National Pingtung University for sharing the great knowledge today. Before we really end our meeting, we need to take some photos as documentation. Dear participant, please open your camera and show your nicest smile in our screen. IT, please.
Maybe you can count it, Mbak Naila.
First screen. Second. Oh, okay, well then. Okay. Thank you very much, dear participants. See you on the next 3-in-1 program. And I am sorry if something unpleasant happened during this event. I am Naila Novalia. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. Thank you so much. I will see you next week, I guess. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Professor. See you next session. Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Oke, untuk adik-adik mahasiswa tugasnya review materi ya. Jadi nanti dikumpulkan hari Jumat. Ya, nanti dikasih ke ketua kelasnya, ke CU-nya. Oke, saya kira itu. Terima kasih. Kita ketemu lagi tanggal 15 dengan Profesor Wenci. Nanti siapkan pertanyaannya dan juga nanti yang bertanya pastilah tepat poin. Ya, makasih. Ya. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.